Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Good afternoon and Assalamu alaikum, everybody. I welcome you all to this session of the International Lifestyle Medicine Conference. I am Dr. Numan Arshad, MDS Postgraduate Resident in Orthodontics Department in Islamic International Dental Hospital, Rifa International University. And I am your moderator for Article Theme 7, which is the practice of lifestyle medicine in Pakistan. The chairperson for this session is Brigadier Dr. Maqsood Al Hassan. He is the recipient of Burki Gold Medal for standing first in MSc. He is also, to his credit, postgraduate diploma in professional ethics and teaching methodology. He is certified in medical education and lifestyle medicine. He has been teaching community medicine to undergraduate and postgraduate students since 1990. He successfully commanded two major army hospitals in Muzaffarabad and Peshawar. Currently, he is the vice principal of Islamic International Medical College Trust, Rifa International University. And it gives me immense pleasure and pride to call him on stage, as he has also taught me about practice of with ethical guidelines. Sir, can you please come to the stage? Thank you so much, sir. Our session will be for 1 hour, inshallah. We have three keynote speakers with us. Starting from our first presentation of this session, I would like to call on stage Professor Dr. Tahir Chaudhry, who is the professor and head of Department of Pediatrics in Islamic International Medical College Trust, and he will enlighten us with healthy pediatric lifestyle and what can the community do. Sir, Professor Dr. Tahir Chaudhry.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I would be just summing up in few minutes, and I would try to stay within my time. When we talk of healthy lifestyles, then pediatric age group to me is probably more appealing, being a pediatrician. Not only to me, maybe to all of you as well. If I start with this dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes it easy for me, that Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. تو یہ وہ دعا ہے جو سیدنا موسیٰ علیہ السلام نے جب ان کو فرعون سے واسطہ تھا تو that probably was more adverse situation than ours. And three of the ayat are directed towards us. We often feel that other people need to understand, but unless and until we have a clear understanding and practice the first three steps, then fourth cannot be effective. If we feel that other people should understand my opinion, my thought process, then I need to have completed first three steps first. Childhood life care is probably a unique opportunity to be practiced in lifestyle medicine, because today's children are adults of the future. And there is an opportunity to lower our chronic disease risk by 80% if we start in infancy and raise our children on the principles of lifestyle medicine. This is what is said by Harvard University Center on Childhood Development and Child Health Care, who are mainly working on mental health of children and how to build the immune systems of children to avoid diseases in the long run. The future of any society depends on its ability to foster the healthy development of the next generation. And we do like to say that children's health is our national wealth, but until and unless we really start to act on these ideas, we will not get to begin a healthier population and a more prosperous society in future. I would briefly touch on all these areas of wellness, starting from physical to social to emotional, to spiritual, to intellectual, and even the occupational. Occupational may appear to be less significant at this point when we talk of children, but we know the burden of the problem when we talk of childhood labor and the labor during adolescence, and also the problems which our children would face as adults if they are not healthy. As my objective is primarily to say a few words and explain few concepts on the role of society and the community and their role in improvement of the childhood health, then I believe at the core of the issue are we as parents. We as parents who have the responsibility to rear our children. Then we have a responsibility as providers of the healthcare, providers of the education, and provider of the childcare services. This may be less relevant to our culture because we still, despite all change in the society, are living like a traditional society. But we are fast losing the ground, as Professor Rashid Latif has reminded us, the significance and the contribution of the larger families and the role of every individual of that combined with the larger family, which can contribute to the final health and gain on opportunities and development of the children. When we talk of people, this is everybody, all people they are the political leadership, they are all the teachers and everybody else. And probably more important than all these three factors is now the role of propaganda. That we are living not in a society which is a society of human beings, we are a society which is now a mess created by social media and gadgets and electronics. And then last but not the least is the role of the policymakers. The policymakers who design things like education, the curriculums, to the policymakers who design our cities, our household, and our national architecture. Early health matters because early experiences faced by the children, they are imprinted on the life of the children, like the biological memory and the resulting physiological adaptation or disruptions. They affect lifelong outcomes in learning, behavior, both physical as well as mental well-being. And science also tells us that early experiences are built into our bodies, creating memories that shape development for better or worse future. And we also know that toxic stress caused by significant adversity, which been discussed in detail by Professor Mia Naimullah in an earlier session, that toxic stress can undermine the development of body's stress response system and affect the architecture of developing brain, the cardiovascular system, immune system, and the metabolic regulatory controls. These physiological disruptions can persist far into adulthood and lead to lifelong impairment in both physical and mental health. Three foundations of lifelong health, as they've been defined and explained by Harvard University, are an environment of responsible relationships. They've probably also been discussed when people were discussing the science of happiness. And the longest study conducted in Harvard University on happiness, this is now probably more than 80 years. This is one of the landmark studies. They also have concluded that the most important element, not only of happiness, but health and well-being, is a concept of responsible relationships. This is not a luxury, this is not everything else. Next is safe and supportive physical environment from all aspects, and sound and appropriate nutrition. I would be touching them one by one. Starting with the role of biome, now the science says that the intestinal biome and its interaction with the metabolism of food is vital to get all the vitamins, minerals, and nutrients necessary to support the development of immune system in growing children. And these nutrients are equally important for brain growth and development. And the development of this biome starts in neonatal period. The development of this biome starts in neonatal period. Children who start with the breast milk, they have a different biome and different long-term health outcomes as compared to children who start with bottle feeding and all other formulas and everything. If we intend to improve nutrition, then we can do it through nutrition of pregnant and lactating mothers. It has been discussed, at least in part, by Professor Sadia Sultana, that if we have healthy mothers, they grow as healthy daughters, healthy girls, healthy young adult mothers. Certainly, they would be better mothers to take care of the children. Then the role of exclusive breastfeeding, at least for 6 months, and then continuing it for 2 years, is known to everybody, from doctors to health workers to everybody around, but somehow we are losing ground on this end. Therefore, WHO and UNICEF say that if all mothers start breastfeeding within first hour of birth, then we can save 1.5 million lives every year. This would reduce the prevalence of and the incidence of pneumonia, meningitis, diarrhea, many other measles, and many other illnesses in childhood, but will also reduce the long-term risk of diabetes, hypertension, metabolic bone disease, and cardiovascular risk throughout life if practiced for 2 years. And probably we as doctors and providers of the healthcare and leaders in community health are not doing and not playing our role, and we have somehow succumbed to either the pressures of the formula industry, or we are compelled and we do not find a couple of minutes for our patients so that we can ask every mother that what is their plan in that if we could ask a question in antenatal to the mother that what is their plan to feed the baby, or in child health care that what parents are doing, and we just advise them the right thing. Then timely introduction of complementary foods. This is more important for our country like all other developing countries, because we in society are now facing two extremes and two ends. As Dr. Samia Naimullah was talking about stunting growth and undernutrition, we are still facing, and we are probably on the lowest edge of providing this end of the care. But at the same time, in affluent segment of the society, we are now facing outcomes like obesity, hypertension in childhood. And we have to take care of both these groups, and we need to intervene and we need to focus on their health. Then avoid junk foods and avoid fast foods. We had over the last couple of years, we had SOPs to combat COVID. This has killed around about 2 million people in 1 year. Fast food and junk foods kill 13 million people every year. This times is 6-7 times higher than the number of people killed by COVID. But since this fast food industry and all things like this are backbone of the Western capitalist materialist system, therefore they would not have SOPs. They know with scientific evidence that this is adding to the problem of obesity, diabetes, hypertension, ischemic heart disease. But despite having evidence, this is adding to obesity, Despite having evidence in 1971 in US, the risk of obesity was only 8%. And in 2017 or 18, this risk increased to 32%. This is all which is effort, and this is all but inflicted on us by the capitalist industry. Therefore, we need to focus on it, and at least we probably do not have resources, and I feel we do not have even the capacity to fight with this industry, but इतना तो होना चाहिए ना, वो जो शायर कहता था कि शिकवाए जुल्म ते शब से तो कहीं बेहतर था, अपने हिस्से की शमा जलाए जाते, कि कम से कम हम खुद समझें और अपना और अपने बच्चों का और जो मरीज हमारे पास आते हों और जो हमारे अजीज अकारब हों और जो रिश्तेदार हों, उन तक तो ये पैगाम पहुंचा के कम से कम उनको तो ये बात समझा सकें कि वो अपना अपना हिस्सा भले से स्मॉल स्केल में ही सही कहीं कहीं अपना हिस्सा अदा कर रहे हैं. Getting children to healthy through role modeling, that we do understand that there is a role of providing food for the children, but to set the routines is as important as to provide food. One intervention which been propagated is to have the family meals. कभी जब लोग नॉर्मली रहते थे माशरों के अंदर तो इकट्ठे मिलके ही खाते थे. आज वो पहले जिस मिसाल की दे रहे थे कि आज तो दो बच्चे भी घर में बैठे हो तो वो अलग अलग बैठे हुए हैं, और कहाँ ये तस्वर के खाना मिलके बैठते हों. तो खाना मिलके बैठने से सिर्फ खाना ही नहीं खाते हैं, we interact with each other, that parents, children and whole of the family sitting together, we can have best time to nurture the social and the emotional development of children. Then one more ominous and looming epidemic is of screen addiction. This screen addiction in the long run may be more devastating for human health as compared to malnutrition, as compared to fast food, as compared to junk foods, as compared to sedentary lifestyles. This would spoil everything. Therefore, we need to focus on it at the right time. We need to provide our children with an environment which is free of electronic gadgets and maximize face-to-face interaction with our children if we intend that they should grow as healthy adults. We need to be socially engaged with the children, and we need to start right in infancy, that if infants and toddlers, they learn language and they acquire emotional regulation through face-to-face interaction with their parents, family, and caregivers. And last but not the least is the role of sleep. मैं तो बच्चों के साथ प्रैक्टिस करता हूँ और रोज ये तमाशा देखता हूँ कि बच्चों को माएँ सुबह सवेरे 6 बजे के करीब उठा के तैयार करके गाड़ी में डाल देती. कोई बच्चा आधा घंटा, कोई 2 घंटे सफर करके स्कूल पहुंचता है. स्कूल में वो एक कमरे में बंद कर दिए जाते हैं. जिन स्कूलों की बात राशिद लतीफ साहब सेंट्रल मॉडल स्कूल लाहौर की बात कर रहे थे, वही स्कूल हम सबके भी होते थे जो खुले हर जगह हर चीज होती थी. और अब वो एक कमरे में बंद रहता है, वहां से आके उसी गाड़ी में बैठ के घर आता है, खाना खाता है और उसके बाद वो पारा पढ़ने चला जाता है. पारा पढ़ के वो ट्यूशन पढ़ने जाता है. ट्यूशन पढ़ के आके 1 घंटा वो उस किसी गैजेट के साथ करता है और उसके बाद वो 9 या 10 बज जाते हैं और फिर वो बिस्तर पे सोता है. सुबह सवेरे उठा के माँ उसको दोबारा गाड़ी में डाल दी. दिस इज लाइफ ऑफ एन 2.5 years old child, 3 years old, 4 years and 5 years old child. What do we expect in future? Therefore, we need to take care of our children. If we intend that they should live and they should grow as healthy adults, we need to take care of all these aspects of health. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for enlightening us. I will now like to call on stage Professor Dr. Shazia Ali. She is the professor and head of Department of Physiology in Islamic International Medical College Trust, Rifa International University. She will be talking about the role of whole food-based plant-based diet in optimal immunity. Madam.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. I am Dr. Shazia, and today I will be talking regarding role of whole food plant-based diet in optimal immunity. I will be discussing whole food plant-based diet in detail along with its benefits. Our immune system is incredibly complex. It has to be strong and sophisticated enough to fight off a variety of illnesses and infections. But at times, it overreacts unnecessarily, causing allergies and development of autoimmune disorders. Despite its complexity, there are everyday lifestyle habits that can be focused on to help give our immune system what it needs to fight off an infection or illness. Immunity is like a building, it's like building a wall that protects your body from diseases. It fights against diseases and does not let the body system to get affected. We can upgrade our immune system by a number of ways, by maintaining a healthy diet, by exercising regularly, by maintaining an adequate hydration, by maintaining adequate amount of sleep, and also minimizing the stress in our lives. A healthy diet is a key to a strong immune system. In addition to providing immune system the energy it needs, a healthy diet that provides sufficient amount of micronutrients that play a role in maintaining our immune system. For example, vitamin B6 that's found in chicken, salmon, tuna, bananas, green vegetables, and potatoes. Vitamin C, which is found in citrus fruits, including oranges, strawberry, as well as tomato, broccoli, and spinach. Vitamin E found in almonds, peanuts, sunflower seeds, and spinach. But now, what's the question? The question in hand is, what type of diet? Either animal diet or plant-based diet. Plant-based diet includes fruits, vegetables, nuts and seeds, whole grains, beans, and legumes. It has an anti-inflammatory action. It reduces your body weight. It is low in saturated fat, free of cholesterol, and rich in fiber, vitamin, minerals, and antioxidants. Studies have shown that whole food plant-based diets decrease the risk of cancers, diabetes, heart disease, high blood pressure, stroke, and obesity. So this is what plant-based diet looks like. It is full of legumes, bulbs, flowers, fruits, stems, leaves, roots, whole grains, mushrooms, and nuts. It improves health as they are full of vitamins, minerals, fibers, and phytochemicals. And the phytochemicals give plants their distinct color, smell, and taste, and provide us many health benefits. On the top of the list is that they help to protect us from cancer. But now the plant-based processed foods are also available in the market. These comprise of fats and refined carbohydrates. These are sugars and white flour. To enhance their addictive nature, long shelf life, visual appeal, these foods rely on artificial ingredients such as preservative colors and flavors. But they are very low in nutrients due to the lack of original fiber, vitamins, and minerals. Now let's talk about the animal-based diet. The animal-based diet elevates the blood cholesterol levels. It promotes development of diabetes and heart disease. It enhances the likelihood of developing osteoporosis. It increases the production of growth hormone, and it promotes tumor development. It's pro-inflammatory, and it is high in saturated and animal fats. A lot of people take animal-based diet, and they say that we're taking it because we need a lot of proteins. But a plant-based diet with a variety of whole foods will naturally provide enough proteins for the body requirements. So the take-home message, what we're supposed to eat and what not to eat, whole plants and plant-based minimally processed foods like whole grains, pasta, bread, and cereal should be taken. But plant-based, more processed foods like bread, protein bars, these should be avoided. Salt, oil, and sugars should be avoided. And animal products like beef, fish, poultry, yogurt, cheese, they can be avoided. I think this is very self-explanatory. I don't need to say anything. You can see that when you consume a diet full of 500 calories, how will they look if you consume fruits and veggies, potatoes, beans, and rice, meat, cheese, and oil? And while losing weight, you don't have to cut the calories. Your serving size improves once you are taking plant-based diet. See how you can see same amount of calories, but the serving size is remarkably increased. Now there's a transition going on all over the world that now people are shifting from an unhealthy lifestyle to a healthy lifestyle. And you can see in this picture, it's clearly written, it's clearly shown how the diet is improving. Besides the health tips, now I want to say that there are something others than more than just health tips. If you choose plant-based diet as the choice, then you can start cooking. You can be more creative in life. You can plan at least one night a week to try new vegetarian recipes. You can create a plant-based pantry list because many plant-based foods like beans and whole grains are shelf-stable, convenient, and economical. And you can convert a number of your favorite meat-based recipes to veggies for an easy dinner solution. And at the end of the day, we can keep our life simple. Not all and not every meal requires the involvement of cookbooks and cutting boards. It can be easy as just taking a bean burrito, a vegetarian chili, a peanut butter sandwich, or even stir-fried veggies. Thank you very much. These are my references, and if there are any questions, I would be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your knowledge, ma'am. Now it's time for our virtual presentation by Professor Dr. Nashi Khan, who is the Project Director, Director and Dean of Rashid Latif Khan University and Director, Counseling and Wellness Center, Rashid Latif Medical Complex, and she'll be talking about lifestyle medicine in her hospital. I will request the IT department to proceed now. Ma'am, kindly turn on your mic.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the conference, ma'am. Please proceed.
Thank you so much. मैं फॉर्मली शुरू करने से पहले रिक्वेस्ट करूंगी कि मेरी स्लाइड्स ऑन कर दें, जो कि मैंने 25 तारीख को शेयर कर दी थी मिस सामिया से और ऑर्गेनाइजर्स से, ताकि मैं फॉर्मल स्टार्ट ले सकूं. Respected colleagues, friends, delegates, and my very dear students, I would like to pay my very special thanks to Dr. Shufta Feroz for the invitation and giving me the opportunity as a psychologist to talk on this forum. The topic of my presentation is potential for lifestyle medicine in Rashid Latif Medical Complex. It's a very sensitive thing for the medical doctors. I think I will be a bit honest, I'll speak what I feel. कि lifestyle medicine को medical doctors इतनी अच्छी तरह accept नहीं करते, क्योंकि ये उनकी practice, pharma, सारी चीजें जो include हैं उसको थोड़ा सा sabotage भी करती है. So मैंने बड़ी डॉक्टर शगुफ्ता नहीं बल्कि मुझे ये टॉपिक खुद दिया, क्योंकि मुझे लगा कि मेरी लिए बड़ा मुश्किल है कि मैं एक मेडिकल स्कूल में प्रोजेक्ट डायरेक्टर भी हूँ और ये भी हूँ, तो मैं बात करूँ कि जी हम मेडिसिन से हटके भी चीजें करनी चाहिए. बट स्टिल आई वुड लाइक टू स्टार्ट विद द बेसिक थिंग दैट लाइफस्टाइल मेडिसिन इज द यूज ऑफ एविडेंस बेस्ड लाइफस्टाइल थेरेप्यूटिक इंटरवेंशन. ये हम सबको पता है. whole food, plant, eating pattern, regular physical exercise, sleep, stress management, avoidance of risky substance, positive social connection, and a primary modality delivered by the clinician trained and certified in this specialty to prevent, treat, and reverse the chronic diseases. मेरा जो है, मैं एक्सटेम्पोर भी बहुत सारी बात कर सकती हूँ. मेरा बहुत स्ट्रांगली पर्सनल बिलीफ है लाइफस्टाइल मेडिसिन पे. इसकी मैं आपको थोड़ी सी एंड में शेयरिंग कर दूंगी. Is lifestyle medicine a different type of practice than conventional medicine? Yes or no? No. Lifestyle medicine is actually the foundation of conventional medicine. Clinical practice guidelines for the top lifestyle-related chronic diseases support lifestyle medicine as the first lifeline treatment before medications. Lifestyle medicine essential to traditional medical health and healthcare. The rise in the chronic diseases, as we see, and related healthcare spending around the globe is unsustainable. 80% or more of all care health spending around the globe is tied to the treatment of conditions rooted in unhealthy lifestyles. हम बहुत सारी चीजों का इलाज उन चीजों से कर रहे हैं जो कि जिनके लिए दवाइयों की जरूरत ही नहीं है, बिल्कुल भी नहीं है, मगर हमारी बहुत सारी माफियाज और चीजें एट स्टेक हैं, दवाइयां स्टेक हैं, फार्मा स्टेक है, चीजें स्टेक हैं. Lifestyle medicine offers hope as a solution to the traditional medical concept. Diseases and conditions such as hypertension, heart disease, stroke, type 2 diabetes, obesity, multi-types of cancers are among the most common and costly of all health conditions. I suppose cancer is the most one. But I am a living example that yes, it can be prevented and it can be managed with the healthy lifestyle. इसकी मैं बात थोड़ी एंड में करूंगी. Lifestyle medicine addresses root causes by focusing on the lifestyle choices that give rise to these diseases in the first place. Lifestyle medicine can prevent, treat, and even can reverse these conditions. Medical health professionals should take time to learn about health, lifestyle medicine, जिसके लिए मेरा ख्याल है कि वो भी तैयार नहीं. ये मेरी अपनी एक फीलिंग है. I could be wrong, मगर मुझे being a part of, not really now a part of, mashallah, we have emerged as a university now, Rashid Latif Khan University, which has been formed and constituted, alhamdulillah. But being in a part of being a director of the counseling center in the Rashid Latif Medical Complex, I have felt that students are still buying the medical model. जबकि बहुत सारी अपॉर्चुनिटी, वो भी कोशिश करते हैं कि हम थेरेपी, काउंसलिंग से के अलावा हम दवाई जाके साइकाइट्रिस्ट से ले लें, चाहे वो एक ज़ैनेक्स हो या एंटी डिप्रेसेंट्स हो, क्योंकि थोड़ा सा उसमें एफर्ट दरकार है. और यही हाल लाइफस्टाइल मेडिसिन का है कि उसमें थोड़ा सा एफर्ट दरकार है और पिल लेना बहुत आसान है. ये तो मैं अपनी फील्ड के हवाले से भी कहती हूँ कि हम नॉर्मल सी स्लीप के लिए हम दवाई पे हुक होना पसंद करेंगे rather than taking some measures, taking some steps, taking some exercises, whatever. So मुझे तो मेडिकल्स एक बहुत बड़े कॉम्प्लेक्स का हिस्सा होते हुए मुझे लगता है कि इनको इन नहीं, हमारे ही डॉक्टर हैं, इन फिजिशियंस को लाइफस्टाइल मेडिसिन सिखाने में थोड़ा सा और बाय करने में टाइम लगेगा, क्योंकि फिर इनकी दुकानदारी खत्म हो जाएगी. I must appreciate the efforts of Mr. Hassan Mahmood Khan, जिन्होंने ये स्टेप लिया, जो कि इनके भी अपने मेडिकल कॉलेजेस हैं माशाल्लाह अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह. बट स्टिल जो बात किसी के लिए सदका जारिया हो और वो फायदा मंद हो जाए, तो उससे बड़ी तो कोई चीज नहीं है. So most medical students and physicians have not received any formal training or certification in medical colleges. सिर्फ ये RLMC का मसला नहीं है, ये सब medical colleges का मसला है. और even the basics of lifestyle medicine, nutrition या physical activity भी नहीं बताई जाती. Luckily in RLMC there is a specific department for nutrition and physical activity, but the formalized courses, certification in lifestyle medicine is still the need of the future. There is a dire need because we know that 80% of the chronic disease today is caused by the healthy lifestyle choices. The importance and urgency of lifestyle medicine. Chronic diseases are leading cause of death and disability in the world. ये WHO की भी studies हैं, causing very heavy toll on economy and spending 80% plus on medical health care. According to the WHO, again, 80% of heart diseases, stroke, type 2 diabetes, and 40% of the cancer could be prevented primarily with the improvement of diet and lifestyle. To my opinion, what I feel being in a medical complex, a part of medical complex, but no more. We are mashallah emerged as a university now. 3 implementation strategies for the medical colleges. मेरे ख्याल में an integrated approach is needed to enhance the environmental medicine content to the medical colleges curriculum. जब तक ये चीज करिकुलम में नहीं आएगी, हम जो मर्जी MOU साइन कर लें, लाइफस्टाइल के साथ कुछ कर लें, जिस तरह बिहेवियरल साइंसेस को आखिरी कार ऐड करवाया गया था, मेरे ख्याल में लाइफस्टाइल मेडिसिन को करिकुलम में ऐड होना चाहिए सब मेडिकल कॉलेज के लिए. इट्स नॉट ओनली RLNs. However, it's important also to emphasize the critical need for interested and willing faculty with competence in environmental medicine. मैं आपको ये बताऊं कि willing faculty का भी होना बहुत जरूरी है. हमारे मेडिकल मॉडल के डॉक्टर्स, जितने भी फिजिशियंस हैं, डॉक्टर्स हैं, वो इतनी आसानी से इस चीज को बाय नहीं करेंगे, कभी भी नहीं करेंगे. Without this competence and commitment, the most creative and relevant curriculum will have no more life than a paper it's printed on. वो कागजों की नजर हो जाएगा. जब तक कि हमें विलिंग फैकल्टी और इसको एक फॉर्मूला इस तरीके में करिकुलम का हिस्सा नहीं बनाया जाएगा, तो मेरा नहीं ख्याल कि हम इनमें इनकलकेट कर सकेंगे. जो हमारे यंग स्टूडेंट्स हैं, मेडिकल कॉलेज के यंग स्टूडेंट्स हैं, जो अपकमिंग डॉक्टर्स हैं, उनके लिए इस चीज को मेडिकल कॉलेजेस का, और इस फोरम पे मैं हसन साहब से भी और डॉक्टर शगुफ्ता से भी और बाकी जो हमारे डेलीगेट्स हैं और जो हाई कमेटी में इन्वॉल्व है, मेरी रिक्वेस्ट होगी कि इसको प्रॉपर करिकुलम का हिस्सा बनाया जाए मेडिकल कॉलेजेस में और सब में. और ये ऑब्वियसली एक हाई लेवल पे होगा. इसकी वरना ये डॉक्टर्स को बाय करना कि आप लाइफस्टाइल में बिलीव करना शुरू कर दें और दवाइयां ना दें, और जो मरीज लाइफस्टाइल से ठीक हो सकता है उसको दवाई ना दे, तो मेरा नहीं ख्याल कि कोई उसको बाय करेगा. Without at least one champion to advance the cause of environmental medicine in the curriculum committees and departments, even the modest efforts to be created on the environment focus in existing scenarios. To begin the task of enhancing the content of environmental medicine in the curriculum of any medical college, it is advisable and reasonable to first make an inventory and assess what is currently in place. Once it has been established that a content area such as environmental medicine is underemphasized, then a basis for action should be created. Building a consensus on the current problem or deficiency, however, is often easier than gaining support for a specific solution. Proposals for specific solutions may provoke claims that such solutions have been tried and failed. Developing of an inventory will also provide us a critical opportunity to identify and access the faculty interest and expertise in environmental and medical health. Allies and interests may be found in unexpected places, from the biochemist by profession who wants to build up more clinical relevance into or her course, to the busy family practitioner who is stipend by patients with symptoms related to indoor air quality. Once an inventory established, a need within a given institution, sources of support must be identified. It's not RLMC, it's everywhere in the medical college. Influential support such as from the principal, departmental chair, prominent investigator, a favorite instructor, or a highly regarded clinician can be very helpful. Members of the student body should not be overlooked and ignored. They are often powerful advocates for environmental issues and for understanding their effects on health. Tomorrow's physicians need to have the knowledge, skills, attitudes to practice medicine in society in which the environment is of increasing concern. Environmental medicine must be integrated into medical colleges education, and I am emphasizing it again and again and again. Towards this end, the academic committees formed for this purpose should recommend that all graduating medical students master some competences in lifestyle medicine. When and where these competences will be best learned depends on the structure, the format of each medical college specified curriculum. Integration of lifestyle medicine in medical college will also highlight the relevance of environmental and occupational medicine to basic science and clinical studies, and provides a vehicle for enhancing faculty awareness of the issues. Moreover, the instructor should be able to integrate environmental medicine into existing disciplines and medical courses fairly easily. Thank you. मैं एक चीज आप लोगों से शेयर करना चाहूंगी और मैं इसमें फख्र महसूस करती हूँ कि आई एम अ कैंसर सर्वाइवर एंड अ सर्वाइवर पहले तो मैं कैंसर पेशेंट थी जिसको 2 महीने दिए गए that you go for a chemotherapy worth 1 crore or you will die. You will still die. Even you get chemo or you don't get chemo, you have 2 months to live. So what I decided, I'll be short because मेरा ख्याल में ज़्यादा टाइम न ले रही हूँ. मुझे बता दीजिएगा तो कि मेरा टाइम खत्म हो गया है. मतलब जिंदगी का नहीं, वो तो अल्लाह जानता है, मगर वैसे तो मैंने ये सोचा कि मैं कीमो तो लूंगी बिकॉज आई एम हेयर फिट. बट आप यकीन नहीं करेंगे, लाइफस्टाइल का तो बहुत ज्यादा मैंने सीखना शुरू किया डॉक्टर शगुफ्ता फिरोज के साथ, जो कि बहुत अच्छी कोलीग, फ्रेंड और बहुत काबिल इज्जत है मेरे लिए. और वो मुझे बहुत, वो क्या कहते हैं, हमारी वेवलेंथ भी बहुत मिलती है बहुत सारी चीजों की वजह से. तो मैं आपको ये बताऊं कि मैंने जिसको 2 महीने मिले थे आज उसका 6वां साल है और मैं आपके साथ आप बात कर रही हूँ. मैं दिन में 14 घंटे काम करती हूँ बिकॉज आई एम अ वर्कaholic. और डॉक्टर शगुफ्ता फिरोज मुझे बहुत अच्छी तरह जानती हैं और भी बहुत सारे लोग रिफा में मुझे जानते होंगे कि मैं, और आप यकीन करें कि लाइफस्टाइल मेडिसिन का फॉर्मली तो मुझे डॉक्टर शगुफ्ता को मिलने के बाद पता चला, मगर मैंने ये चीजें जो अपनाई जिसमें सबसे ज्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट थी काम. मैं कीमो करवा के ब्रेनुला लगा के तब मैं रिफा में काम करती थी. मैंने 3-3.5 साल रिफा में एज अ डायरेक्टर साइकोलॉजी डिपार्टमेंट काम किया हुआ है और अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह डिपार्टमेंट बड़ा फ्लरिश कर रहा है. मैं कीमो करवाती थी और मैं डिपार्टमेंट चली जाती थी और 7 बजे निकल के आती थी. वो मेरे एक्टिव कैंसर के 3 साल थे. एनीवे मैंने अपनी लाइफस्टाइल बिल्कुल बदल ली. मैंने खाने में ऑर्गेनिक चीजें डाल ली और मैं आज आपके सामने हूँ. मैं किसी दवाई पे नहीं हूँ पिछले 5 साल से और हेल्दी फूड खाती हूँ, काम करती हूँ, and I think positively. Thank you everybody and my very special thanks to Dr. Shagufta.
Thank you, ma'am, for informing us with the latest amendments in Rashid Latif Medical Complex. I would now like to call our chairperson, Brigadier Dr. Maqsoodul Hassan, to conclude this session. Sir.
I would commence by thanking the speakers, Professor Dr. Tahir Chaudhary, Professor Shazia, and Professor Nashi Khan for their enlightening talk. I must add 2 lines to it. Professor Tahir Chaudhary's presentation said, and I quote, "Society has some role to play." but do we belong to the society? Ask questions to your own self and give answers to them. Professor Shazia mentioned the role of lifestyle or nutrition in enhancing immunity. We don't look after our immunity, what to talk of our children. We'll need to amend our ways as quickly as possible. And Professor Nashi Khan, I would treat her talk as a preamble to our next session's talk. She has very rightly pointed out the providers need to understand and work on changing the way they perceive medicine. We will be talking about it in our next session, but thank you very much, Professor Nashi Khan, for pointing out what we need to go do from here on, way ahead. You have pointed out. Thank you very much.
I would now like to call Dr. Shagufta, Professor Shagufta, for certificate distribution. I would like to call Professor Dr. Tahir Chaudhary to receive his certificate. Professor Dr. Shazia Ali. Now I would like to request Professor Dr. Shagufta to present the certificate to our Honorable Chairperson, Brigadier Dr. Maqsood Al-Hassan. Thank you so much, sir, and all the keynote speakers for your utter wisdom. I would now like to hand over mic to Dr. Afifa Siddiq, who will be moderating the next session.
इस कॉन्फ्रेंस का खास मकसद कुव्वत मुदाफ़त बढ़ाने के हवाले से सीखना है। इस मौजू के माहिर डॉक्टर्स अमेरिका और
International Lifestyle Medicine Conference 2021. I'm Dr. Afifa Siddiq, postgraduate trainee in Pharmacology Department, Rifa International University. I'm your moderator for the article session 6. It will be held from 3:30 to 4 p.m. inshallah. The co-chairperson for this session is Professor Dr. Shazia Qayyum. She is serving as a consultant chemical pathologist and MPhil supervisor in Pathology Department, Islamic International Medical College, Rifa International University. I would like to call her on stage. Ma'am, you are requested to take your seat, please. The chairperson for this session is Professor Dr. Shazia Ali. She is serving as head of the Physiology Department and PhD coordinator at Islamic International Medical College, Rifa International University. She is certified in lifestyle medicine and health profession education. She has also done postgraduate diploma in professional ethics. I would like to call her on stage. Ma'am, you are requested, please, to come on stage. Thank you, ma'am. May I have permission to start the session? We have 4 speakers for this session. Each participant will have 5 to 6 minutes, and the first bell will ring at 4.5 minutes, and the second bell will ring at 5.5 minutes. Starting from our first presentation, I would like to call on stage Dr. Myra Safdar, demonstrator, Islamic International Medical College. She will be presenting her article on the topic, Health-Related Quality of Life in Women of Reproductive Age with Iron Deficiency Anemia in Rawalpindi.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon, everybody. I'm Dr. Myra Safdar and I'm currently working as a demonstrator at Islamic International Medical College. I'm here today to present my article, which is Health-Related Quality of Life in Women of Reproductive Age with Iron Deficiency Anemia. So starting with the background, health-related quality of life is a concept that describes the functional and subjective responses of an illness to subjective response to an illness. Compared to other parameters, it provides a more holistic understanding of a disease process that goes beyond its complications. Iron deficiency anemia is a common nutritional disorder worldwide, especially in premenopausal women. In Pakistan, at least 1/5 of women are suffering from anemia. These statistics are provided by WHO. The high prevalence in the female demographic might be accounted for by the monthly menstrual blood loss. However, dietary factors like inadequate consumption, tea consumption, and pica are a known risk factor for the development of iron deficiency. As iron is an essential component of hemoglobin in the blood, the deficiency results in anemia, which leads to various functional consequences. Notable among them are fatigue, pallor, depression, and lowered immunity. As iron deficiency anemia is highly prevalent in females in Pakistan, the goal of our research was to study the effect of iron deficiency on health-related quality of life in Rawalpindi and then compare it with normal international reference values. Coming to the methods of our study, it was a descriptive cross-sectional study. We selected female participants that had been diagnosed with iron deficiency anemia in Rawalpindi between the ages of 15 and 45. Non-probability convenience sampling technique was used. Data was collected using the SF36 questionnaire, which is a standardized questionnaire for health-related quality of life. It consists of 36 items and provides scores that evaluate the 8 domains of health-related quality of life. These 8 domains include physical functioning, role limitation due to physical factors, role limitation due to emotional factors, energy, emotional well-being, social functioning, pain, and general health. Scoring technique used was RAND 36, with 100 being the best score and 0 the worst. All of the data was entered and analyzed using SPSS version 26. Mean SF36 scores were first computed for each domain and compared with international references. Later, a subgroup analysis was performed after defining groups on the basis of anemia severity. Coming to the results, all study findings suggested significantly lower health-related quality of life in female participants in Rawalpindi compared to international references. A further analysis also demonstrated a link between physical functioning and general health scores in participants with mild and moderate anemia. The findings of our study are consistent with other researches in literature that demonstrated a link between impaired general health and iron deficiency. To conclude, the health-related quality of life in female participants in our study was found to be significantly lower in all domains when compared with international references. Even though we did not study the dietary pattern of our participants, the role of inadequate diet in the development of iron deficiency is well documented. Therefore, the take-home message of my presentation is that women should be educated about the importance of adequate nutrition, especially iron-rich foods, supplement use, and lifestyle interventions that can help them improve their health-related quality of life. These are my references, and thank you very much for your patient listening.
Thanks a lot for enlightening us. Now I would request Aisha Amjad, lecturer, Human Nutrition and Dietetics, Rifa International University, to present her article on Role of Lifestyle Medicine on Immunity, a case report.
Assalamu alaikum. I hope you guys are enjoying good health and staying safe. Myself, Aisha Amjad, I'm currently serving as lecturer in Human Nutrition Department, Rifa International University, Quaid-e-Azam Industrial Estate Campus, Lahore. I'm going to share a case report regarding the role of lifestyle medicine on immunity. With the emergence of global pandemic COVID-19, where several precautionary measures have been devised, the role of robust immune system in prevention and rehabilitation have proven to be predominant at this juncture. Preliminary evidence has suggested that higher odds of both severity and mortality of COVID-19 are closely associated with unhealthy lifestyle patterns. We as dietitians, although assess, diagnose, and treat nutritional problems at an individual and wider public health level, however, nutrition is certainly just an aspect of integrative approach of lifestyle medicine. So today, I'd like to share a case report regarding the role of lifestyle medicine on immunity. So a 26-year-old obese female was presented with severe asthma, which was managed by continuous use of bronchodilators. Along with that, she had depression and was taking antidepressants regularly. On assessment, we realized that she had quite poor lifestyle habits. Investigation revealed that she had family history of asthma. Along with that, she reported recurring infections such as tonsillitis and pharyngitis. Pertaining to this fact, overuse of antibiotic resistance have also seen in her. She reported mood swings, lack of motivation, and lethargy. So basically, we inculcated the 6 principles of lifestyle medicines for approximately 3 months. So the objective of this study was to strengthen her immune system by incorporating lifestyle modifications, to improve the quality of life of patient by changing her personal habits and behaviors. So starting with incorporating the balanced diet, a special focus was on balanced breakfast. We limit the caffeine intake and increase the consumption of fruits and vegetables. Along with that, her screen time, her cold drink consumption, and her caffeine intake was limited to improve her circadian rhythm. And eventually, we have observed that her snooze time was increased up to 8 hours per day without any antidepressants and sleeping pills. In order to manage stress, we incorporated physical activity with special focus on symmetrical exercises. We incorporated cardiometabolic activities in morning and high intense training in evening. We also recommended her to indulge herself in emotionally focused therapy to deal with her undealt emotions and traumas. Eventually, after 3 months, we have seen that her sleep-wake cycle was improved. She has also reported a significant weight reduction. Her antidepressants were tapered off, and visible reduction in mood swings were also reported. Unfortunately, she contracted coronavirus 4 months later. As we all know, people suffering from chronic lower respiratory tract diseases are more vulnerable to the complications associated with COVID-19. Luckily, our subject indicated mild symptoms such as lethargy, dry cough, and low-grade fever. Her lab findings indicated slightly raised C-reactive proteins, which were later confirmed by her lungs X-ray, which revealed minor inflammation, and she recovered within 10 days. Her symptoms subsides within 3 to 4 days, and she does not have to visit to the hospital. In comparison to her siblings who had to complete the course of steroids such as Delta-Cortic, and yet their lungs were predominantly affected, she recovered without any permanent damage to her lungs. So in this era of judicious use of medicine, contemporary treatments have been discouraged. Yet, lifestyle medicine has proven a nexus between health promotion and disease treatment. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you for informing us with these words of wisdom. Now, I would request Amila Noor, student of Rifa International University, Lahore. She will be presenting her article on the topic, Consequences of COVID-19 Pandemic on Sleep, Psychological Immunity and Well-Being, Synchronized Lifestyle Modification, A Journey of Hope. Now it's time to call on stage our last speaker of this session, Dr. Athar Abdullah Beg, Assistant Professor at Central Park Medical College, Lahore. He will be presenting his article on the topic, Consequences of Walking in Contrast to Moderate, Continuous, and High-Intensity Interval Training on Short-Term Heart Rate Variability.
Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon. I always wonder, how can exercise improve our quality of life? So for that purpose, we have decided to do a research on the topic of the consequences of brisk walk, moderate intensity continuous cycling, and the high intensity interval training. And then we have seen its effect on the heart rate variability. So we all know that there is a significant relationship in between the increase in the physical activity and decrease in the cardiovascular disease like stroke, heart failure, and many others. Heart rate variability is a very established tool for assessing the patient at risk of high heart diseases and their related deaths. And heart rate variability is considered as a gold standard to assess the cardiac autonomic functioning. Higher the heart rate variability means the improved cardiac autonomic functioning. And it is well known that heart rate variability is increased in response to exercise training. Researchers have demonstrated the association of heart rate variability with multiple modes of physical activity like the brisk walk, moderate intensity cycling, as well as the high intensity interval training, and many more. But there is insufficient data indicating the most effective model among these all for the improvement in heart rate variability in healthy, non-obese young adults. So, objectives of our study was to assess the levels of heart rate variability in different modalities of exercise and to correlate the values of heart rate variability in groups which are walking and measuring the step counts, doing moderate intensity cycling, and doing high intensity interval training exercise. To achieve these objectives, we have selected the 41 non-obese healthy adults, and initially their resting ECG was taken for the analysis of the resting heart rate variability. And these 41 samples were divided into 4 groups through the balloting. Group A, Group B, C, and D. Group A performed the high intensity interval training in which the 10 participants were included. And the Group B performed the medium intensity cycling, and Group C performed the walking and measuring their step counts and using their mobile phone GPS-based application, which is the pedometer, and sending me their screenshot of the application for record. And Group D is the control group. All the intervention groups completed the 24 session in the 7 weeks. After these 24 sessions, their ECG was again taken for the resting heart rate variability. And this ECG was analyzed by the PowerLab software, the heart rate variability module 2.0. And this is the interface of that software. So the SPSS 21 was used for the statistical analysis, and the results were documented as the mean plus minus standard deviation. Paired sample t-test was used for the comparison of the data before and after the intervention of the exercises in each group. And ANOVA was used for the comparison between high intensity interval training, medium intensity cycling, and the walk and the control groups. P-value less than 0.05 was considered statistically significant. And this table shows the demographic data of the male and female participants. And this table shows the heart rate variability, different parameters which was measured. Likely, you can see the time domain parameters and the frequency domain parameters. In the time domain parameters, we can see easily that in the walk group, the participants which were in the walk group, there was a significant improvement in the mean RR interval, as well as in the low frequency and low frequency, high frequency ratio in the frequency domain parameters of the heart rate variability. But in the medium intensity cycling group, as well as in the high intensity interval training group, there is no significant improvement in between the pre-intervention level and the post-intervention levels. As well as when we have done the ANOVA for the analysis of the data for the comparison in between all groups, there was no significant difference in between groups. So the better improvement in the frequency domain parameters of the heart rate variability in the walking group as compared to the high intensity and the medium intensity groups indicate a better sympathovagal balance after the walking intervention. So this study concludes that the brisk walk in an open area is the most effective mode of physical activity when compared to medium intensity continuous training or high intensity interval training to improve the frequency domain of the heart rate variability, thereby decreasing the cardiovascular diseases and related deaths. So in every walk with nature, one receives far more than he seeks. So thank you very much. If you have any question, please feel free to ask. And if you further query, you can contact me on this email.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing your knowledge with us. Now I would like to call on stage Amila Qasim, student of Rifa International University, Lahore. She will be presenting her article on topic Consequences of COVID-19 Pandemic on Sleep, Psychological Immunity and Well-Being, Synchronized Lifestyle Modification, A Journey of Hope.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. My name is Amila Qasim, and the topic that is assigned to me is Consequences of COVID-19 Pandemic on Sleep, Psychological Immunity and Well-Being, Synchronized Lifestyle Modification, A Journey of Hope. These are the contents that I'm going to present. Introduction. Lifestyle is one of the most imperative factors concerned with health and the immune system. It compromises fluctuating behaviors and roles of person at home, workplace, institutes, activities, and mainly their diet as they follow an unhealthy lifestyles. Due to this, people with weak immune systems suffer from illness, uncertainty, overweight, mental disorder, hypertension, disability, and sometimes death. So the correlation between lifestyle and health should be considered. Due to the modern lifestyle and COVID-19, the lifestyle of the majority of people has changed. Therefore, they are facing the challenges of malnutrition, unhealthy food and diet, drugs and alcohol consumption, stress, anxiety, depression, and sleep disorder. Literature review. The COVID-19 pandemic represents a massive impact on human health, causing sudden lifestyle changes through social distancing and isolation at home, with social and economic consequences. Optimizing public health during this pandemic requires not only knowledge from the medical and biological sciences, but also of all human sciences related to lifestyle, social, and behavioral studies, including dietary habits and lifestyles. For managing and controlling health issues, 4 evidence-based successful intrusions of health are sleep, nutrition, physical activities, and stress management. Synchronized lifestyle medicine is an embodiment of tailored treatment as its impact on endocrine, epigenetic, immunologic, and inflammatory changes mainly contribute to chronic disease. These are the objectives of the research: to find the possible relationship among synchronized lifestyle modification, insomnia, psychological immunity, and well-being. Number 2, to explore the effect of synchronized lifestyle modification in the relationship between insomnia and well-being. Number 3, to explore the effect of synchronized lifestyle modification in the relationship between insomnia and psychological immunity. This is the research model of my research hypothesis. There would be a significant relationship between synchronized lifestyle modification, insomnia, psychological immunity, and well-being. Synchronized lifestyle modification will moderate the relationship between insomnia and well-being, such that the negative relationship will be weaker in the case of high synchronized lifestyle modification practice. Synchronized lifestyle modification will moderate the negative relationship between insomnia and psychological immunity, such that the negative relationship will be weaker in the case of high synchronized lifestyle modification practice. Method. The population of my research was university students and employees. Sample was of 394 participants, and data was collected online. Research design was survey research. Questionnaire were self-structured survey questionnaire based on synchronized lifestyle medicine was used in present research. SLP focused on healthy diet, physical activity, sleep, stress management, and addiction. Procedure. From the 500 distributed survey questionnaires, we received 394 complete responses, resulting in a response rate of 79%. In respondents, 120 males and 274 females were included. Their average age was 20 years and their average work experience was 4 years. In participants, 211 got a bachelor's degree and 52 master's degree qualification. 80 participants were married and 314 were unmarried. Measures: psychological immunity, psychological well-being, insomnia, and synchronized lifestyle modification plan. These were the measures of the research. These are the result of the research. Conclusion. Present research concluded a significant positive correlation between SLP, psychological immunity, and psychological well-being. Results also shows a significant negative relationship between insomnia with SLP, psychological immunity, and psychological well-being. Results show a significant negative effect of insomnia on psychological immunity and psychological well-being. In the case of high SLP practice, the negative relationship between insomnia and psychological well-being will be weaker. During COVID-19, in case of high insomnia and high SLP practice, psychological immunity will increase. Similarly, during COVID-19, in the case of high insomnia and low SLP practice, psychological well-being will be decreased. Limitation and future implementation. Despite ample evidence of the association between lifestyle health behaviors and sleep quality, a comprehensive understanding of the causal relationships may be difficult to achieve. Lifestyle medicine, insomnia, and psychological behaviors, including psychological immunity and well-being, are all intertwined and strongly embedded in the cultural and social environment. Prospective and longitudinal investigation following sleep patterns, well-being, and related lifestyle behaviors are needed to attempt to tease apart some of these variables and establish the temporal order of events. Such studies may also incorporate demographic, psychosocial, and biological inter-individual differences to develop mediating models and to establish possible underlying mechanisms. These are the references, and thank you.
Appreciation for such a wonderful presentation, ma'am. Now I would request our chairperson, Professor Dr. Shazia Ali, to conclude this session.
Thank you very much. All presentations were very informative. And I fully agree with Dr. Myra, who said that iron deficiency, she discussed regarding iron deficiency, and females should be counseled regarding lifestyle modification program. And I think they should be counseled in all stages of their lives. Similarly, Dr. Aisha and Dr. Somya's research work was on immunity, and really boosting our immunity is going to be beneficial in every sense, and it helps us to combat any type of disease that comes our way. And Dr. Athar's presentation was also very informative, and I think it was pointing out towards physical activity, which is one of the pillars of lifestyle medicine. So I really enjoyed all the presentations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Now I would request our chairperson to present certificate of appreciation to our co-chairperson, Professor Dr. Shazia Qayyum. Dr. Shugufta Feroz, Director, Refined Institute of Lifestyle Medicine, is also requested to accompany her towards certificate distribution area. Professor Dr. Shazia Qayyum, please receive your certificate of appreciation. Now, Dr. Shugufta Feroz will present certificate of appreciation to our chairperson of this session, Professor Dr. Shazia Ali. Thank you so much, ma'am, and all the speakers for your participation